Hello dissenters, my name is Italyx and I am here today returning to City Skylines with a little bit of a different style video from the usual, I would say. For those of you wondering, Italyx, where's part 5? Bad news? That's kinda done. I'm a little bit over it, and the reason is because I've put actually over 100 hours into City Skylines so far, and making little 20-minute videos every day or every other day, it's just not appealing to me. For long-form content, Twitch and streaming just goes so much faster when I can do 6 to 8 hours at a time. That would take me months. How much I have streamed on Twitch so far would literally take me months to upload that same content to YouTube. So hopefully that makes sense to you guys a little bit. There are videos on demand available on Twitch if you feel like going and watching my stream city, which this is one of my older stream cities. And if you're wondering why we're here, it's because we're going to design a new area of town. We're going to utilize this space over here. And for those of you wondering how I have this much room, I have the mod that unlocks all 25 areas. The entire region is available for me to build with. If you'd like to try that out, there's a link in the description of this video to that workshop edition. Very easy to install if you have the game. I just wanted to do a little video on how to make an aesthetically pleasing and simultaneously functional city from a traffic perspective, since traffic seems to be what gives people the most problems. And it's really easier than you think. As a new player myself, I really overthought it. I thought 6-lane roads were the answer. That was pretty much it. Everyone will also say highways. Highways are an integral part of making a good city, but you don't have to do what some people do, which is they'll make a grid. They'll make a giant grid, like pretend like our grid goes all the way out here. And then for every single grid that they make, they'll have some kind of really complicated highway system that goes back and forth next to it. They'll have another square over here, and then they'll have the highway system going in between all of them. That's not necessary. That's not necessary. Definitely overkill. All you really need is 2-lane roads, and a lot of them. In 2-lane roads example, intersections are not a bad thing, and I'll show you why as we finish deleting my overcomplicated example here. 2-lane roads do not create lights. So we have an intersection of 2-laners here, 0 lights whatsoever. Just ignore those symbols in the background. They're complaining. We don't care about them right now. They'll get over it. But as soon as we add anything above a 2-lane road to this, say a 4-lane road, we get stoplights, and that is going to hold up traffic so much more significantly that it's almost not worth it, in my opinion, most of the time to have anything bigger than a 2-lane road or a highway. So with that in mind, we're going to create kind of a small city, but one that I think is aesthetically pleasing using the ruler tools. So we're going to find somewhere where I believe the center to be. Judging from this little patch of area that we have, it's around here. It's around here. So to begin with, we're going to make a square. The way you make a perfect square is you just start with a line and you count. So in that case, we made it 2 in length. So you can see we have little markers here. As soon as our road matches up its line with this guideline, that's 1 in length. So if we go down another one, you'll see a new blue line has appeared. That's 2. All right, I know that sounds basic for a lot of you, but some people really takes them a long time to see that there is a ruler and a guideline here. You can go into even smaller increments if you want by doing halves. The way you know where a half is as soon as the next line appears, right there, that's the halfway point. So 1 back is below half, 1 above is above half. Makes sense? You with me so far? All right, so like I said, we're going to make a box. So we're going to go 2 over, now we're going to go 4 up. And the reason I'm going 4 up is because I want the line that we started with. Also, I apparently miscounted here. Hold on, one second, please. Not perfect. There we go. My mouse had to be a little bit higher for some reason. We now have a perfect square with a perfect center. This is now our center. And this is an easy way for us to make diagonals. Because from here, now that we have a square, now that we have a box, we have a guide. We're not going to make a grid city, but we are going to start with a box in order to help us make some other shapes. Because with this guide, we now have some elbows, as I call them. See how it kind of snaps into place to align itself with the horizontal road going from left to right? Similarly, if we want to go up to down, we start from here. You'll notice how it kind of snaps into place. That's what we want. We want little guide layers to make sure we have perfect symmetry, if you're going for symmetry. If you want an asymmetrical, aesthetically pleasing city, you might need to look elsewhere. So now it's easy for us to go, say, 2 over this way, 2 over this way, and know that both of these lines are symmetrical. But what if we don't want squares? What if we want diagonal lines? Well, it's pretty simple. All you have to do is go to the perfect center that we created earlier and drag the line up to a corner. So now we have a perfectly straight diagonal line. We can do it from this direction as well, splitting the middle of these other roads that we just got done creating, and we can be positive that these are equal distance apart. See what I'm saying? This is how you get on your way towards making a very symmetrical shape. But we're gonna go one step further and actually design a little bit. Now, 1 in length is perfect if you have smaller roads, so that if you were to try to make a grid, you could be absolutely certain that there's plenty of space to zone on both sides. See the little light blue box on the left and right of our road? That indicates zonable areas. So if I was to create a space here, you can see it's now completely filled in with these little checkered boxes. That means that people can zone maximum efficiency. But if you were to ever upgrade this road, that would lower the efficiency. So, I don't know if that makes any sense, but what we're going to attempt to do now is create some curves. So we're going to select the curved road tool. Now there's a lot of tips and tricks that you can use with this. One is making perfect circles. Really, really easy to do. You just have to pick a direction and make sure that you evenly count the numbers. So if I wanted to make a circle up here, the easiest way that I could do that would be to start anywhere really. Go out 1 or 2, doesn't matter, you just have to go the same distance each time. So let's say I pick 1. Then we want to lock it into the elbow. See how it's automatically locking at a right angle for us? Then we go over 1, over 1, up 1, up 1, over 1, and you just mirror it like that for the simplest, most perfect circle that you can possibly achieve in City Skylines. And if you want to make a bigger circle, you just have to count further. So I could do 2 down, 2 over, and it's eventually going to make a gigantic circle. You could also use semicircles in your design if you want to, so it doesn't have to be a full circle. I could do this, and then draw a line between these two, and now we have a semicircle. There's a lot of options there. And once you know how to use the lock-on tool to use elbows properly, you can get perfectly symmetrical shapes. So I probably didn't need to explain the curve tool yet, but it is important to know how to make proper circles. In our case, we'll be using it here pretty shortly. First, we're going to go up 5 spaces. All right, that should be a perfect 5 from both sides. Let me double check. 2, 4, and 5. And from here, we're going to just connect these 2 roads. Now, we can be 100% certain that if I was to draw a line out to here, this is the center. So we can start extending in this direction if we want to. I can also be certain that this is parallel to this particular line. And I can mirror that on all sides for a cool basic shape. Let's go ahead and do that. I'll skip forward for you, don't worry. Now we are left with but one final road left to connect. You'll see we've got the beginnings of a pretty interesting shape. It's not perfect. I think there's definitely room for improvement here. So the way to make a perfect triangle here, we're probably going to start with a line going out however far we want it to go. So in this case, I know for a fact that this is 2 blocks over, so 2 blocks high, maybe 3. 3 might make a curve. Yep, 3 makes a little bit of a curve. So if you're okay with curves, you can also use curves very effectively. So we can say, do this for example. You can have kind of a blade or a leaf shape sticking out of all 4 sides. But if you want more perfect triangle, you do have to have all of the lines equal in length. What I mean is, if this is 2 across, then this line is going to have to be 2 up. Now that it is equal, it will be a perfect triangle with no curves. And then from there, we could go one step even further, maybe make a layered triangle. And what I mean by a layered triangle is more or less this, and we could keep going outwards if we wanted to have kind of a cool take on the grid system, and duplicating this on all sides. Equal symmetry, and symmetry, as we all know, is beautiful, and you can't go wrong with it, really. You can make whatever shape you want, and as long as it's equal on 4 sides, then you're fine. Nobody will really care. This should be the final set of triangles to make our symmetrical piece, and you can see how far our shape is already coming along. It's looking a lot better than it did when it was just that square in the middle, isn't it? So that's what you have to do. You just have to pick out one quadrant of it. So you have to look at it and say, okay, what do I want to add, and would it look cool if it was duplicated on all sides? Sometimes the answer is yes. Other times it's just a case of trial and error where you keep it on, until you finally figure it out the way you want it to look. Now in my case, I like the way that it's layered. So I can layer the interior as well if I so choose by doing this. Now, you'll notice I didn't use a guide layer for that whatsoever. The way that I'm going to go about mirroring this on all sides to try to duplicate it is, first I'm looking at the fact that since I've spaced these 2 blocks 2 apart, there's one in the middle that can be zoned upon. So I'm going out to about here each time, and I'm meeting that line. If I just draw straight over, you're going to notice that the line that we're looking at here is perfect with the dots on the road. That's how I know that it is as even as it can get. And in creating these layers, we're creating extra little levels of complexity to our shape. So now that I've deleted some of the diagonal roads, we have this cross here as a guide for our circles. And since I want to do layers of circles, normally I would just find the halfway point, which is here, and start creating the circle going around. But since I want a circle on the inside, we're going to find the 1/4 first because it's more efficient. We're going to go up to the halfway point. Talked about halves earlier, so as soon as that line appears, I know it's half. So we're going to go up half, over half. But you'll notice that the space is already occupied. That's okay. We just delete part of it. It'll be fine, trust me. So there's the halfway point, and we're going to do the same thing going the other way, all the way around. We may have to delete part of this road in order to make that possible, but that's okay. You might also want to use one-way roads for your roundabouts. That might be helpful as well. So we're going to go over half and then complete the circle once we're confident. Now, there's mods nowadays in the workshop that can do that for you. Look at these little icons that I have down here. Upgrade to one-way roads, going in whichever direction you want. Yes, thank you, workshop. I would very much like to drag to set one-way road direction. There we go. That is such a wonderful tool. We've now upgraded from a 2-laner to a one-way 2-laner. You couldn't do that before, in case you were curious. So, now that we got the circle, we'll disconnect the intersection in the middle, and I want to make an outer circle now, but I want it to go the other direction. Why? Because we can. So let's go ahead and select the other direction, and I believe the center was around here before. We go up 1, over 1, over 1, down 1, so on and so forth, until you have your outer layer of circles. Now you'll notice that sometimes it's not perfect. It does look a little bit janky, but it's as perfect as the game will allow us. Sometimes it's okay to be a little bit more aesthetic than functional, as long as the rest of your city works. Now something else to keep things functional is you do need more intersections than what we currently have. You'll notice you can go all the way down this road, and there's 0 ways to turn around. And that's honestly probably okay for the most part. People are going to be able to figure out where they want to go. But for the rest, the ultimate guide towards getting people into and out of your city is very simple. Give them 3 paths to take. Let's take a look at my more recent streaming cities so I can show you a little bit of an example as to what I am talking about as far as traffic and splitting it up goes, and keeping most of your city into 2-laners and still having good traffic flow. This is my most recent example, and I think it's important to note because previously we had traffic backed up on this highway. So far, it went all the way down the... Just ignore the loop Hot Wheels track, okay? Ignore that. Pretend like it doesn't exist because that's the only way to get up this steep of an incline is making a bunch of loops. Trust me, I tried. Anyway, as we go up, you'll see that we do have some traffic stacking here. They're all trying to get into the left lane, so that's something I want to be considerate of in the future. We can fix that at a different time. The point that I'm trying to make clear right now is that we have one highway leading up to 2 different cities. That's really, really difficult to accommodate. So here we have a lot of people splitting off. And you'll notice that they're getting froze up here because a lot of them are trying to turn left to get back on the highway, which is kind of stupid if you ask me, but beside the point. The point is this highway is the most recent one that we got done fixing, the one that cars are actually moving down. And the way that I fixed it was creating some splits. So from here, they've got 4 different ways to access the city. It's not pretty, but you can make it pretty if you want. So they're using all lanes of traffic. Some are going right, some are going forward and then going right, some are going left, and then some are going forward and then going left. It keeps them all nice and even, spread out throughout the city, and creates 0 bottlenecking on these 2-lane roads. It's beautiful. Now going back the other direction, you'll notice we're not quite as good. There's a huge traffic jam. So let's go ahead and try to fix it just to kind of prove my point that you can use highways and 2-lane roads effectively together to eliminate traffic for the most part. Now, the reason that traffic is backed up here is because a lot of people are probably wanting to get into this city, and I did not give them a way to do so. they're all stuck going all the way down the mountain, and it's really inefficient. So the way I've decided to try to eliminate this little traffic stack up that we have here is by creating an off-ramp leading into the city. So normally they go all the way up here and they can't turn left. They want to turn left, but they can't. So they're going all the way around, down the loop-the-loops, and they're hitting this left turn lane or staying over here, whatever the case may be, it's not working. So by giving them a new exit to get into the city, what you're going to find is slowly but surely cars are going to start turning left to get into the city they want to go to. Because normally they're having to make a U-turn all the way down the mountain. That's crazy. But don't be concerned if people don't start using your new lanes of traffic immediately, because cars program which direction they want to go from as soon as they spawn. So it takes quite a while for the cars that want to use the new off-ramps to start spawning in and using those off-ramps. We're seeing that being utilized now. Looks like we're taking around a quarter of the traffic off of this main highway over to the left. And something like a quarter can be a big deal in the long run. So whereas before we were looking, our traffic was stacked all the way back up to here almost, it's now caught up to this point. And yes, they're still trying to stick into the left lane because they're bad drivers primarily, number one. But there's other ways to fix this issue. It's just a matter of splitting up traffic evenly, giving them opportunities to go take bypasses to complete other sections of the city, for example, and just allowing them to get to where they want to go. This is one of the earlier merging lanes that I created, and is obviously not one of the best, but you can see my point being proven here. Since I had no way for them to get off, they're all turning left and U-turning to get back onto the freeway to go back up to the city that they were trying to get to. So I created one little mistake. I didn't give them an off-ramp to this city. But now that I have, traffic is going to start taking care of itself. We just have to give it some time to do so. See what I'm saying? Thank you guys so much for watching this video. Hopefully you enjoyed it, and hopefully you're able to create some cool aesthetic cities of your own that are also having some functionality of some kind. Thank you guys so much for watching this video. My name is Italix, and I will see you soon.